Alright, what up painters? Paul here, and today this is as far as we'll get today. Pretty much just finishing up the model, and the model is pretty much finished. From the Mourngul, um, from the second step of the Mourngul all the way down up to the very final highlights, as well as the horse and the base as well. Okay, so let's give you a look around. And this is the final video for Spookytoberfest, for Let's Paint a Mourngul. Okay, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later. Alright, what's up, Wargamers? Today, this is my second update, and I'm going to show you guys what I did so far. So, what I did was I mixed a 1-to-1 mixture of Ulthuan Gray and the Fang, and what that did is it made the Fang a little bit more lighter. And what I did was I went over the skin again, and then when going over the previous areas, I would actually give it like kind of one glaze over the pure, just the Fang, like this area right here, so that in essence it would just tie in the colors of the stark mixture of Ulthuan Gray and the Fang with the older colors, and then make a nice transition as such from the dark purple to the sort of the light, the Fang, with a little bit of a glaze over it, and then the final mixture of just the Fang and Ulthuan Gray. And as I kept layering on the models, I went more concentrated towards the peak area, such as the top of the head and the brow ridges and such like that. And so that's what I did, and I did the same thing for the arms as well. As you can see, I have the purple, and then the Fang, and towards the raised area towards the middle, I have the mixture of 1-to-1 of Ulthuan Gray and the Fang. So let me show you guys what I'm going to do as an example. I have my wet palette, and I'm going to wipe off most of my paint, and I'm going to glaze off again this area right there, and I'm going to keep going over it again and again and again until I get the nice color that I want. And with this color, since it's a lot lighter, I like to go for only the raised areas. And then after this, it's going to be a heavier concentration of Ulthuan Gray with a mixture of White Scar and the Fang again. And I'll show you guys when that comes. So as you can see, you saw me just do one little layer of the mixture there, just to kind of tie it in. And then I just bring in the highlights with just the Fang, with the mixture, and you can see it turn light almost instantaneously as I keep going over it again and again and again, with just barely some paint left on my paintbrush. So as you can see, it brought out the colors, and I'm going to keep going over this over the whole entire model, and I'll show you guys when that's done, and I'll show you guys the next step, a little bit of it, and then hopefully I'm going to drag this video out for about like 3 days, over the course of 3 days, and I'll finish up the whole entire model, and I'll show you guys the end result on the 31st. So today is also the I believe it was the 27th, I believe, of on Monday, and it's 12:30, and I gotta get up at like 4 in about like 4 hours, so I'm gonna go to bed. Alright, so now that that's done, what I did was I went over the entire model again with another highlight of a 1-to-1 mixture of 1 mixture of the Fang, to 2 Oathlang Gray, and then to 1 White Scar. So it's 1 to 2 to 1. Okay, and then I mix it up, and then I only touched up the uppermost parts, and I did the whole glazing effect again. And then afterwards, what I did after that was I did a mixture of 1-to-1 of the Fang and White Scar. And what I did with that was I kind of just edge highlight, and I just touched up the areas that are hit by light. And so I'm going to do that over the whole model. Like as you can see over there, I just used the edge of the brush, and I just kind of went down the little line like that, and I would just edge highlight, and I would just pick off the parts that have been touched by the light. It looks a little bit starky right now, but then we're gonna tone it down with a really light glaze of Dragonhof Nightshade. So I'll be back when that's done. So here's an example of how I highlight the model. I'm just going to go touch the spots that are hit by the sunlight, such as this corner right here and the upper part of that rib area, just like that. And it's just a really kind of thinned down mixture of the Fang and White Scar, just like that. And for the arm like this, I would just touch up this whole entire area right here. I'll make a V, kind of a V. Whoa, almost dropped my phone there. And just like that. Okay, so that was a demonstration, and I'm going to do that over the whole entire model. And I'll see you guys when I'm done. Okay guys, so after the highlights, the final edge highlights and such, I gave it a very light glaze of Dragonhof Nightshade. And what I did with that was I put some Dragonhof Nightshade into the palette, and this is a very old palette, so ignore the old Tamir Clear Red. But I put some Dragonhof Nightshade onto the wet palette, and I watered it down with a bunch of water, but I still wanted the blue tinge to it. So it was just a matter of adding a little bit more nightshade, or adding a little bit more water. And so I gave the whole model an entire glaze of the Dragonhof Nightshade glaze, and it really tied together, and it brought down the starkness of the whites. And then, so what I'm going to do now was, what I did was I pre-shaded it again, the mouth, with ball red, to get it into all the cracks and crevices inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with Cadian Flesh Tone instead of Talon Flesh, because this is a little bit more darker than Talon Flesh. And then after that, I'm going to give it a wash of ball red to make it really dark and rich skin color. And then I'm going to go over the teeth with Pallid Witch Flesh. Now I'm going with Pallid Witch Flesh instead of something like a White Scar teeth, because I don't want it to be too stark and it to take a lot of attention away from the whole entire model. So I'm just going to do Pallid Witch Flesh, which is a kind of toned down white in my opinion. And what I'm going to do with the claws and the bone is I'm going to do on the bone on his ribs, I'm going to do a Agrax Earthshade wash, and then I'm going to go highlight it up again with some Rakarth Flesh and some more Pallid Witch Flesh. Okay, and this is Dragonhof Nightshade. Don't worry about that. It was just a pot that I won last month on a Games Workshop painting competition. Okay, so that covers the mouth and the bones and the claws. I'm going to also cover the this brown opening gaping stomach right here
with Abaddon Black to make it look like it's just a dark abyss, kind of. It's a bottomless stomach. Um, and then after I do all that, we're gonna come back and we're going to do the horsey, the poor little horse. Oh, poor little horse. Ooh, that's gonna be very fun painting up the to make a clear red on him. So here it is. Here's the model so far. Um, the skin is, I would say it's done. It's looking pretty nicely right now, and I'll I'll see you guys when I'm done with the steps, and we'll get started with the horse. Later. Alright guys, so the Mourngul is completely done, and all I have left is the horse. So let's have a look around. So all I have left is the horse and the base itself. And let me recap what I did for you guys. So for the mouth, I did a base coat of Cadian flesh tone, and then I gave it a wash of ball red. Now the equivalent of ball red in the newer color range is Carroburg Crimson. And then, so what I did next after that is I went over the teeth with Pallid Witch Flesh. As you can see, it's not very stark, it's nice and kind of neutral. Um, and it was, let me tell you something, it was very meticulous, having to pick out every single one of the teeth. And yeah. Now the next step is completely optional, but you can use Ard Coat and make your mouth slimy if you want for this model. Now, next for the claws here, I did there was already a Rakarth flesh base. So what I did was I gave it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then I just touched it up again with some Rakarth flesh, and I left the shaded areas back over here after I went over it with Agrax Earthshade, and then I went over the entire claw with Rakarth flesh, leaving this area back here to be shaded still. And then I gave it a dry brush of Pallid Witch Flesh. Okay, and then what I did was I left some of the Rakarth flesh up here, and then the darker areas back here, and I just dry brushed this area right here, giving me a really subtle and smooth transition. Okay, so for my dry brush technique, what I like to do is I like to brush it on my hand, and as you can see, your hand already has some natural wrinkles, so I like to get to the transition to the point where I can almost see my cracks underneath underneath the paint, and it almost looks like I almost have no paint left on my brush, and then I start to dry brush, which means that I have very little paint, and I just keep going over it until it gives me the nice color, nice consistency that I like. Okay, so I did the same thing for the ribs as well, and then now that's pretty much it. So we move on to the horse. So the colors you're going to need for the horse are Dryad Bark for the skin, and because I want my horse to be brown, and then I'm going to give it a wash of Agrax Earthshade. So after that, I'm going to go highlight it up with some Mournfang Brown, and that'll be that for the skin. So for the hair of the horse, you're going to need it's going to be similar to the Mourngul's hair. We're going to do a base coat of Abaddon Black, and then we're going to give it a dry brush, a very light dry brush of Celestia Gray, and then we're going to give it a glaze, preferably, or a wash of Nuln Oil. Okay, so now that's done, it leaves us with the accessories and such on the horse. So for the bags, such as that are right there and right there, I believe. Yeah, those bags are accessories. We're gonna go over it with Karak Stone, and we're going to give it a wash again with Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to go highlight it up again with Ushapti Bone. Okay, and then for the silver bits, such as on the gun, right there, we're going to do a mixture of 1-to-1 of Runefang Steel and Storm Vermin Fur, so to give it a nice darker color, because I don't really have a lead belcher or something like that, and it's a little too late to be going to pick it up since it's so close to the deadline for Spookytoberfest. So that's going to be that. We're going to do that as a mixture, as a base, and then we're going to wash it with some known oil, and then we're going to highlight it up again with pure Runefang Steel. Okay, so that's for the barrels of the gun, and then for the gold parts of the gun, we're going to do a Auric Armor Gold with a mixture of XV88. So we're going to do a 1-to-1 of this again, so it's going to be darker as well. And then we're going to give it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then we're going to highlight it up again with Auric Armor Gold. Okay, so now that's done, we only have the gory bits left, the guts, such as right here. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to give it a base of Mephiston Red, and then we're going to give it a wash of Agrax Earthshade. Not ball red, because I really want it to look like the blood in the deeper parts of the areas is still a deep, rich blood. And so after that, after the wash, we're going to give it a highlight of Evil Sun's Scarlet. And then to play around, we're going to use some Tamiya Clear Red XV27. And we're going to give it some shiny bloody effects, and it's going to be nasty, and it's going to be super awesome. Alright guys, I'll come back when this part's done, when I'm done painting it up, and I'll show you guys the steps, and I'll go more in depth of what I did.
Alright, what up painters? It is the end of Spookytoberfest, and it is 11:32, and as I predicted, I just barely finished the entire model, 100%, and it is Halloween, and I am currently at the Cusco's house. Say hello to the tubers.
Hello, tubers.
Okay, so let's bring us here to my workstation, and I'll show you guys the model. And here it is in its entire completion. The base is just a little wet still, just a little bit. And I'd also put some static grass on it too. So to start off, what I did was I put, for the horse, I did a first base coat of Dryad Bark again, and then I gave it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then I highlighted up the raised muscle areas with Mournfang Brown. Okay, so that's that for the skin, and then I did the front of the horse's head with white scar. Okay, so what I did after that was I did the hair with some Abaddon Black, and I did a light dry brush of Celestia Gray, and I gave it a glaze of known oil. Okay, so that does that. And then for the saddle back here, I gave it a Dryad Bark base, and then Agrax Earthshade wash, and then I did the metal bits for the gun as well, and Oh yeah, also I did the handle of the gun in dryad bark, and then I did the metal bits, the silver bits, with a mixture of runefang steel and storm vermin fur. And then I also did the gold bits with a mixture of auric armor gold as well as XV88. Now what this did is it gave it a good coverage, and it made the gold a little bit darker, giving me a good base to build up from with shades. Okay, and so as I was painting that, I also found out that it had some cloak on it. So I didn't have green, but if I did have green, I would have made it like the horses from Attack on Titan that the Survey Corps use. But I didn't have the range of greens that I needed. So I just did a Temple Guard blue base, and then I gave it a heavy wash of Drakenhof Nightshade, and then I highlighted up with Lortherm blue. So that's that, and I also did the horseshoes with the silver mixture, and then I just gave all the metal bits a wash of, or the whole entire area right here, a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then I highlighted up again the silver bits with Runefang Steel, and then the gold bits with Auric Armor Gold. Now for the pouches, I did a Rakarth Flesh base, Agrax Earthshade wash, and then I highlighted up with Ushapti Bone. Okay, so Rakarth Flesh base, Agrax Earthshade wash, and then Ushapti Bone highlight. Now for the bone up here and the guts. For the bones, I did a Rakarth Flesh base, and then I just highlighted up with Pallid Witch Flesh, which is the same thing I did for the claws and the other ribs on the model as well. And then for the guts, the gory bits, I did a Mephiston Red base, and then Evil Sun's Scarlet highlights, and then I gave it a coat of Citadel Technical Art Coat to give it that gleam. I also did the mouth in there with Cadian Flesh Tone, and then the teeth I did it with what was it? Pallid Witch Flesh as well. Okay. So there's also some red bits over there too, and I did my mixture of, or my process of Mephiston Red and Evil Sun Scarlet. So that about does it for the horse. Let me give you a turnaround about it. And then for the base was I did a base of Citadel Texture Sterland Mud. I don't know if you guys can see that. Sterland Mud, and then I gave it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then I dry brushed it up with Zemesi Desert. And then I built up from that with a lighter highlight of Ushapti Bone for the other gravel, and this gave it a kind of a Deadlands look. And I left a streak back here in Sterling Mud, so it looks like the horse is being dragged away. And then for the rocks, I did just a dry brush of Celestra Gray, and that's all I did for the rocks. So that's about that. And then for the grass, I used a Gale Force 9 basing system from the jungle basing kit. I use the winter static grass, and it's actually just dead grass. It looks like that. Okay. So and then I just painted up the bottom of the base again with Abaddon Black. So that about does it all. And thanks for watching, guys. And I'll catch you some other time. Laters.